Well, the Lord our God has been gracious to us and has given us another Wednesday that we can study an encouraging word together. Our encouraging word comes from Psalm 90, verses 10 through 12. It says this: "The days of our lives are 70 years, and if by reason of strength they are 80 years, yet their boast is only labor and sorrow. For it is soon cut off, and we fly away. Who knows the power of your anger? For as the fear of you, so is your wrath. So teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." And really for me, our encouraging word is really centered on verse 12. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. For those of us who are older, I think this is just going to ring true. We want to be able to understand that there is an end and that it will eventually come, that God has been so good to us to give us health and a good life that we have. And yet there is a time appointed unto man once to die, and after that, the judgment, Hebrews 9 and verse 27. And so here in Psalm 90, we have what is believed to be the lone psalm of Moses. As far as we know, and as far as historians can tell us, Moses only wrote one psalm, and it is Psalm 90. And I'm convinced, I don't have any evidence of this, but I'm convinced that this must be the end of his life. His understanding of his own frailty, of his own sin, who God is, and the great gap between God and man, that he is just so keenly aware of that in the writing of this psalm. The subheading of Psalm 90 in my Bible says this: "The eternity of God and man's frailty, a prayer of Moses, the man of God." So throughout this prayer, Moses is very concerned about his own sin, the sin of his own people, their condition before the eternal God. For example, in verses 7 and 8, it says, "For we have been consumed by your anger, and by your wrath we are terrified. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your countenance." So again, that just speaks of a deep understanding of God. Our secret sins, that which we hid and kept quiet and let no one know about, they're exposed in the light of your countenance. Moses also seems to be very aware of God's eternal nature and certainly our own frailty and weakness. Verses 1 and 2, as the psalm begins, says, "Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations, before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God." That's an amazing way to start a psalm. And so in our reading today, we see Moses considering the fact that our days are numbered. We live about 70 years, he tells us, and unless by reason of strength, we might make it to 80 years. And that's an interesting concept as well. If you make it to 70, you've done pretty good. And that's still true today. If you get to 70 years old, you're doing great. And he says, but if by way of strength, those that are stronger, the organs are still doing well, that they're still able to do some of those things that they want to do and enjoy doing, that they'll make it to 80, and certainly some go beyond that. But it seems as almost the way this is written that those would be bonus years for us, because 70 is right about the length of a man's life. And so we see, obviously, reminders of our own frailty throughout the pages of our Bibles. We can see in these reminders that God really wants us to understand this fact. It's said several times. He wants us to know how that works for all of us who are bound by time, and how that cannot be changed. Some of these reminders from God are soft, subtle statements that just cause us to think about the number of our days and the brevity of life. But some of these reminders kick us straight in the gut. And I'm not trying to ruin anyone's day, but just try this one on for size. From Ecclesiastes chapter 12. "Remember now your Creator in the days of your youth, before the difficult days come, and the years draw near when you say, I have no pleasure in them, while the sun, the light, the moon, and the stars are not darkened, and the clouds do not return after the rain. In the day when the keepers of the house tremble, and the strong men bow down, when the grinders cease because they are few, and those that look through the windows grow dim." The elderly get to a point somewhere. And I think we're all different because of attitude and a number of other things, but the elderly will get to a point at some place in their life where they say, I have no pleasure in the days that I'm living in. And that hurts. He gives this imagery in the day when the keepers of the house tremble. That would be the physical frame, our body, our physical bodies that shakes and it trembles, the keepers of the house. Strong men bow down. The older we get, the more that our posture begins to change. And he says, when the grinders cease because they are few, that's our teeth. The grinders cease because they are few. That's terrible. And those that look through the windows grow dim. That's a picture of our eyesight, that as we look out even to a fresh, beautiful day, it's just not as clear as it used to be. And it's just a natural progress of life. And God does not hide that from us. And I think, though it's challenging to read and to think about, we can be encouraged by the great blessings he's given to us in each day of our youth and in the days we live in now, that he's been so good to us. And just not to fret over that, but to be prepared for the coming of Christ, and certainly for the day when we pass from this life. And since we're in the middle of cheering everybody up, here's a great verse to cheer all of us up. Put this encouraging word on your refrigerator and see if your family doesn't check you into a mental ward. Job 14 and verse 1, man who is born of woman is of few days and full of trouble. He comes forth like a flower and fades away. He flees like a shadow and does not continue. Job goes on to say, that's right, there's more, folks. Job goes on to say, at least there's hope for a tree when it's cut down, that it might sprout again. Though its stump may die in the ground, yet even the scent of water will cause it to bud and bring forth branches. But man is laid away. He dies and does not rise. Thank you, Job. Appreciate that. James 4 and verse 14, you do not know what will happen tomorrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. I think David is much kinder to all of us as he tells us really the same thing. Psalm 139, verses 13 through 16. For you formed my inward parts. You covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance being yet unformed, and in your book they all were written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them. David goes back before his own existence and speaks of the creation process, the creating process of his physical frame, and how God put him together with great purpose. He is fearfully and wonderfully made. That's a beautiful picture of who we are and what God has done. He knows the end of all this, and he knows that we're on a timeline, but he has put so much effort into making us who we are this very day. And to all of you who are out there today, that is encouraging. I have a short article called Assaying Value. It does a good job of showing us the value of time and how it is seen through the eyes of different people at different times. And so I'll just read it for you. I think it's interesting, and it really helps make the point. It says, imagine a bank that credits your account each morning with $86,400. It carries over no balance from day to day. Every evening it deletes whatever part of the balance you failed to use during that day. What would you do? Draw out all of it, of course. Each of us has such a bank. Its name is time. Each day you live, it credits you with 86,400 seconds. Every night, it writes off as lost whatever you failed to invest to good purpose. It carries over no balance. It allows no overdrafts. Invest it so as to get from it the utmost in health, happiness, and success. The clock is running. Make the most of the day. And for those of us who struggle with realizing the value of time, this article does a really interesting thing by giving different signatures of time and then tagging that on to something that helps us see the value of that span of time. So to realize the value of 1 year, ask a student who failed a grade. To realize the value of 1 month, ask a mother who gave birth to a premature baby. 1 week, ask the editor of a weekly news report. To realize the value of 1 hour, ask the lovers who are waiting to meet. For the value of 1 minute, ask a person who missed the train. The value of a second, ask a person who just avoided a car accident. 1 millisecond? Ask the person who won an Olympic silver medal. Value every moment you have and count it as a gift from God. Treasure it by sharing it with someone special, especially your spouse and your children. Remember that time waits for no one. That is a great way to look at the measurement of time and how valuable it can be depending on who you are and what situation you might be in. It will always be an encouraging thing to have someone remind us about the precious value of our lives and the time we have been given, even if it's Job. If we need to remind a friend or a loved one of these things, let's do it with grace and with love. They deserve to be reminded of this great truth from God. Let's hear from Moses one more time, Psalm 90, verses 10 through 12. The days of our lives are 70 years, and if by reason of strength they are 80 years, yet their boast is only labor and sorrow. For it is soon cut off and we fly away. Who knows the power of your anger? For as the fear of you, so is your wrath. So, teach us to number our days, that we might gain the heart of wisdom.